you all hear me? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Hello. I'm John Fijalkowski. I've done that. Yay. Process maturity. It doesn't get any more change-oriented than maturing your processes. To change the way you do business from the way you're doing it today to a different way tomorrow is change throughout. All we're going to do about in this session is just change through process maturity. So, the journey from superhero to mild-mannered process engineer, what does that mean? It means that most of us start out wanting to save the world, get IT working, get someone's laptop fixed, and at the end of the day, getting into the world of processes and quality will actually do that better than trying to be the superhero that we all set out to be. So, that's what we're trying to do. First of all, quality, service, and process. How are they all connected? There is no easy stairway to process maturity heaven. It's hard work. It's a hard slog. You don't just wander up the staircase and make your way there. It's a little bit more difficult than that. If you want to improve the quality of a service, you must focus on process improvement. And that must be tied to a service improvement plan. You can't do it without planning, and there's a lot of planning in process maturity. To deliver a service improvement plan, sorry to say, it looks more like that than a stairway to heaven. You are going to have to get your back into it, and you're going to have to push it uphill, and the day you stop pushing it uphill, it will very quickly start rolling back down again. You have to keep going, you have to keep working, you have to do it every day, and you can't stop. And you have to give what we would call a 4X. Remember the old T-shaped person? Now you need to be a 4X person. First of all, you have to be an explorer. You have to be into exploration. You have to be curious. Your curiosity quotient. Do you remember reading about that curiosity quotient? You have to be curious about quality and about process and about service. And you have to work out how they all connect together, and it's much more complicated than you first think it is when you set out. You also have to become an expert in those various component parts. You have to become an expert in how do you measure quality? How do you improve a process? How do you set down and write out a process? That expertise is also about coordinating the work of others. Sometimes you feel more like the conductor than you are actually the person playing the violin. Someone's got to conduct all the various component parts. You can't do it on your own. It's a team game. Experiences. You have to develop experiences by doing it. You have to have a go. Sometimes you're going to have to climb a mountain, and sometimes you're going to have to fail at climbing that mountain. You're going to have to throw yourself off it and get a few rope burns. You're going to have to sometimes put your head down and cycle like an idiot. Sometimes you're going to be paddling down the rapids thinking, well, how did I get here? I just wanted to change the printer cartridge delivery process. You've got to get all those things into your head. These are the ways you're going to behave. And execution. You've got to look at that bar and think, right, pick it up, have a go, drive through, execute. How do you become good at executing a process change? It's no use just thinking, oh, fancy a process. Oh, yeah, let's have a quick... No, it's about really taking a big, long look at it, picking it up and driving it through and making a difference. So, how do you get from the Wild West to a high-performance team? Process maturity levels. Everybody recognizes there are 5 levels of process maturity. Starts off with the ad hoc level. At the ad hoc level, in my best day, when it's a good, high-aspiration day, I'm thinking, I'm going to save the world. That's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, the high aspirations aren't always there. If you actually look at what goes on in level 1, it's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit heroic. You know, the heroic service engineer. I have come to repair your laptop. Yes. Let me have a go. Control-Alt-Delete. Yes, there you go. Sorted. It's also a bit ill-defined. No one really knows what it is, you know. So how did you manage to get this all working? Ah, well, that is a secret. I am only bound by administration rules. I can't tell you. I started it again, of course. There's all those things which go into doing the daily work, to creating those little processes that go on to fix things. But it's slightly unpredictable. You pick up the service desk phone one day, you say, hello, I've got a problem, it takes an hour, and the next day it takes 3 days. You have no clue what's going to go on. That's the ad hoc world. So in the worst nightmare scenario, it can turn into a little bit of an IT Wild West. Who knows who's doing what, and who knows what's going to happen depending on which site I get, or which person comes to see me. You're never really quite sure. Now, in level 2, you're trying to make it more repeatable. This is the level 2 of process engineering where you're saying, let's all sit down and agree how we're going to do this. In the lovely high aspiration world, this becomes tribal behavior. The tribe starts to behave in a similar way. We all accept that the way to do things is that we'll do this and do that and do the other. So, okay, we've all agreed that we're part of the tribe. Unfortunately, different tribes exist within a large organization like a university or a college. You end up with several tribes. I went into HR a couple of weeks ago. I said, okay, I've come to follow the process on my RA1's STC form. What should I do next in the process? And they all looked around and went, put it in the in tray. Oh, right, the in tray. Sorry, I disturbed your day. Recently, my HR team put a doorbell on the outside of the door so that nobody would go in and disturb them from doing whatever process it is they do in there that's so secret. So now there's a doorbell to get into HR. So the tribal behavior is wonderful, but in the worst possible scenario, it can turn into a little bit of the witch doctor world. Brian Quinn described strategic planning once as just a bunch of people trying to organize a rain dance. And it can be like that sometimes with process engineering. Sometimes the witch doctor can sit there and say, right, we're going to change the process. This year in clearing, the green sticker will go at the bottom right-hand corner, not the top left, because this is going to improve the process. And everyone goes, oh, right, okay, you're going to improve the process. How did that improve things? Is it quicker, faster, better? How did it? No, we've decided. Okay, right, we'll all do that then. Tribal knowledge becomes embedded. People start to know what to do, but it's not necessarily written down. It's partially documented. Beginning of every year, somebody backs up a truck and yeah, we're just getting the forms for this year. And there's a whole bunch of forms get offloaded, and that's my documentation. That's the only documentation I have any clue about. It's a form with 750 fields. That's what I get. So in some ways, it's repeatable, because everybody has to fill in the form in the same way, although not always the same way. And there's a varied amount of success as a result, and there's that coaching approach that you get. You know, coaching? Remember when you were at school and you got the teacher going, kick it harder, run faster. It's that kind of, you must do it better. Do the process better somehow. Okay, we'll do that. I'll do it better and faster and harder. Good. Now, in a defined world, we start to get a little bit more documented. Things start to get defined in the sense that it's been written out. And in the highest aspiration, it becomes the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta can have its problems. You know, have you never had that on a Monday morning? You get the manager who comes in and goes, lo, I come down from the weekend. I have spent at least 2 hours defining this process, which I have scribed to stone for you on service desk to adopt and become the constant process for delivering printer cartridges. Place this, along with the others, on the service desk process list. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the stone tablet. Put that behind the filing cabinet with the others, will you? Off it goes, never to be seen again. But there's a process now, and it sits there written on stone, and everybody uses it, although they don't necessarily use it. So in the worst possible nightmare, it turns into the bureaucratic swamp, where everybody wants to write out processes and deliver processes, and there's thousands of them. You never quite know what's going to happen with the next process. In a defined world, there should be a process repository. That is a place where I go and I can find the processes. The process for this is listed, and it says do A, do B, do C, do E, and then we're done. Great, I can now see it. Because it's defined, I can actually say that I'm going to adopt it. And I can say, oh, look, you should use this process. It works. Look, A goes to B, goes to C, goes to B. Ooh, that's good. Previously, you went A, and you didn't know what happened next, and someone turned up 3 months later and did E. You're never quite sure why. So the whole process chain starts to make sense. People adopt it. That means that people start to standardize things. Well, A becomes B. Well, you have to do that in order for that to happen. So B then becomes C, so you have to do that for that to happen. There's good reason now. Because there's an A, B, C, D, E, I actually start to standardize things. And that allows me to correct behavior. What are you doing? You can't do B. You haven't done A yet. Oh, right, sorry, I'll do A first, so you can do A first. And that leads to an agreed methodology of how to do A, how to hand it over to a person who's going to do B, how to hand it over to someone who's going to do C. And then you can have training. Because now you've got A, B, C, D, E, you can give it to the trainer and say, there you go, trainer, A, B, C, D, E. Oh, that's very good. Okay, everybody, today we're going to learn how to do A, B, C, D, E. And you can train people on how to do it because it's defined. It means something. Everybody knows what that means. At last, I can follow it. Once it's defined, I can start to manage it. This is when it becomes metric-driven. And in the wonderful world that I have in my head of the perfect world, it becomes that beautiful dashboard of all the different metrics, of all the different things that are being delivered. How long does the phone ring? How many rings before we pick it up? How long does it take to get a call closed? How many calls are there currently open? All the different metrics that you'd want are on there. But in the worst possible nightmare, it can become a little bit big brother, where too many metrics are floating around. There's 1,000 graphs. I'm never quite sure which graph we're talking about today. You don't necessarily want 1 million graphs. You just want like 5 or 6 that make some difference. So there's a metric-driven world which then can be compliance enforced. So you can say, OK, in the metric world, from A to B takes me 1.5 hours. It takes you 3 days. What are you doing? Why is it taking you 3 days? It only takes 1.5 hours to do that. So you can actually start to look at why it takes them 3 days. Then you can look at best practices. Well, it takes me 1.5 hours because I do this, this, and this. What do you do? Well, I go and get a cup of tea first. It takes me a while to do that. So you can actually look at what they're doing, and you can have a look at best practices across the group. Who's doing it the best way? Who's quickest? Who's fastest? Whatever it is. And you can work together on it as well, because you can cooperate with people, because there is an A, B, C, D, E. You are measuring it. We are trying to get it from 3 days down to 1.5 hours. So you work with other teams, not just yourself internally, but also outside with the customers as well. And that can lead to quality assurance. I can check what you're doing. Hang on, it should take 1.5 hours. We've been going 6 hours and you're still not done. Why? And I can start to look at that. Why is it taking you? And let's try and get this done a bit quicker. What's going wrong? And quality control, at the end of it, you measure it, you add up all the statistics, you put it all in there, you can actually start to see the quality improving. And that will lead, of course, to KPIs. A good KPI is a graph that goes on for months, but it's regular, it's reliable. I know what it means. When I see a KPI and it says this is the number, I know I can rely on it because everybody's doing things in the same way. And that can be aligned to your strategy as well. And then you get into the optimizing world. In the optimizing world, things are even better. In my beautiful brain, continual improvement has become the way we live. We're continually getting better, changing every day in the right direction. We're all continually improving. My mother tells me, John, you're a bit slower than the rest. But we're all continually improving. Predictable results come from that. You start to see through that continuous improvement process that you start to see that things stop being variable between 1.5 hours to 3 days, but start being like 2 hours down to 1 hour 45, down to 1.5 hours. You start to have some predictability about it. You can have external benchmarks and best-in-class discussions about where you are and how you stand with the rest of the world. Your adaptable model starts to emerge. Because you start to embrace change as a daily event, always looking for ways of improving, then you start to have a model which, by its very nature, allows you to do that. You build it in that way that becomes adaptable all the time. If you live in a world where you are an ad hoc person, you look at the processes in a particular way. You sit here as a superhero in the ad hoc world thinking, do you know what? All that's just nonsense. I can't understand any reason why I'm a professional. I don't need processes to help me how to fix a laptop. I can reboot a server without any issues, and I can change disks without problems. I'm a professional IT person. That's good. But the ad hoc person sitting here as a superhero, superhero IT. Oh no, IT superhero, we'll change it around. It's an unfortunate acronym. If I look at the far side, I think of myself as a superhero looking at the optimizing world full of drones. People who are mindless, who sit there on service desk going, hello, this is service desk, how can I help you? I am your father. Oh, no. Darth Vader is in there somewhere. I know he is, demanding that we all have these processes and we all follow them like droids and we are faceless and meaningless and we don't have any part to play in being bold and noble and fixing someone's laptop. Because fixing someone's laptop is a superhero activity. It's not something that can be improved by following a process. Now, if you live in a world that's optimizing and you've never lived anywhere else, you don't understand where all this is coming from. Our superhero is claiming that he's from the heroic world and that moving on to the next world is for old people. Only old people do things the same way twice. You've got to be in a world of new technology, changing technology, flexible, moving, shifting with the times. Every day is different. Old people do things twice the same way, not young people. And the defined world, well, that's bureaucratic. All that writing down of processes, counting things and everything else. Ugh. Big Brother is for counting. Don't do that. And I do not want to work in a droid army. Thank you very much. I'm a superhero, and I will save the world without being a droid. Now, that's odd. I'm the person who lives in this world, and I look at that and think, well, I don't recognize those titles. When I stand in my world, I think of myself as the mild-mannered process engineer who's just trying to make the world a better place. I like to think that my process is efficient and effective and changes. and adapts and moves, and we all get better. And when I look down the stack, I'm looking backwards in time. I'm looking to where we've come from. I consider myself now working in a high-performance team. I remember the old days when things were just measured. And in the old days before that, when we were just doing the documentation. And the days when we were just tribal, and we all acted together as one village, but ultimately we weren't quite sure what we were doing. And when I look at this lot down here, I just think that's chaotic. I remember it. I remember the old days. And in fact, I don't see superheroes. I see IT cowboys. How do you persuade your IT superhero, who really does believe that they are changing the world, that they're actually a cowboy? The time has come to move on. Don't try and portray me as Darth Vader, and don't think of yourself as a superhero. It's a little bit cowboy. It's a little bit Wild West. You need to move yourself up the stack. So how do you do that? That's a trick, persuading someone who thinks they're wonderful that they're not, and then getting them to become wonderful. Okay. First of all, let's just take a quick run around how we would look at a quality improvement journey. Split the world. Split the world into two and say there's a bit that's in scope and there's a bit of out scope. Currently, all our processes are out of scope because they're all not being optimized. Let's take one or two. Let's magically place them into scope. Not all of them. Don't try and do all your processes at once. You'll kill yourself or somebody. Make that ad hoc little process tribal by sitting everybody down and saying, OK, let's work together. Let's make this repeatable. Once it's repeatable, let's start to document it. When we've documented it, we'll then start to measure it and have some metrics and see how we're doing. And eventually, we'll be able to optimize it. And you start optimizing it. Don't do any more yet. Don't go back there. Come back and stay here and optimize for a bit. Just to show people that it works. Just to show people that it's worth the effort to get to here and to optimize that process. Once you've proved to people that it does work, that you can do it, you can make it work, then you start on another one. So you take another one. Next time, it's a little bit easier. This time, people aren't quite so doubtful and suspicious, and they start to believe you. And then you get those optimizing, and you start to optimize them. And again the next time. And eventually, it starts to become fairly standard behavior. We're taking a new process. We're going to adopt it. We're going to change it. And eventually, it's all in scope. It's all being optimized. Once you're in that world, you will never go back here. This can be thrown away because it's gone. Once you're in that world, you're optimizing every day. And that's a great thing. Now, the things that stop you. One of the ugly truths, the very unfortunate ugly truths, is that human beings don't always think you're on the right track. And they will either inadvertently or subversively try and undermine what you're doing. Your superhero doesn't want to lose the outfit. They would like to stay as a superhero. So I don't want to wear a cowboy outfit and think I'm a cowboy. I want to be where I am. So they undermine what you're doing. So here's the ugly truth. People make mistakes, either by accident or not. So there's mistakes. If there's a mistake, how do you spot it? You have to bear in mind, how am I going to spot mistakes in order to treat them and deal with them? And then once I do that, and I've treated them, what happens if they keep making those same mistakes again and again and again? I have to, at some point, question why they're doing it again and again. And what is the ultimate sanction if they do keep doing that mistake again and again? Different types of mistakes, of course. First of all, there's the stupid mistake. There's always the stupid mistake, and people make them all the time. Someone has to have a second pair of eyes. Do we always think it's OK to have a second pair of eyes? A superhero who's just fixed a laptop is not going to say, I've just fixed your laptop. I'll just have my friend check that I'm not an idiot and that I've done it correctly. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. So then we want to be checked. I don't want anybody to come and have a second pair of eyes on what I've just done. Same with a service desk call. You know, I've closed the call. What do you mean you want to check it? I just closed it. I'm a professional. I don't need somebody to look over my shoulder and check that I filled all the fields. Oh, yes, I did make a mistake. Sorry about that. Yes, sir. Correct. Once you've got that second pair of eyes involved, and that is a trick, to get a second pair of eyes, to get quality assurance into your organization in a way where people don't feel belittled, humiliated, picked on, or shown up, you're going to have to work carefully with them. And then once you've done that, you can fix the stupid mistakes quite easily. But what happens if they keep doing it? It's a capability issue, isn't it? If they keep making those stupid mistakes time and time again, don't you eventually, even in a world of social responsibility and wanting to look after everybody and the village needs to stay alive and work together, we have to admit that some people just aren't in the right job. And then ultimately that does lead to dismissal. And that's a really ugly message. Nobody wants to go into their team and say, oh yes, well, we're going to improve the processes. First of all, dismissal will be the result if you don't follow the process. It's not a great message. We don't like to talk about it. Honest mistakes are slightly different. Again, you've got to spot them. Even when they're honest mistakes, someone's got to be watching. Who is your quality assurance person in every part of the process? Who's then going to do the training necessary because someone got it wrong? I wrote 36. It's 63. Is it? I thought it was 36. No, it's 63. Why is it 63? Training. Let me show you why it's 63. It's not a stupid mistake like 30. Oh, yeah, God, yeah, of course. I really thought I was right. I really thought I was doing the process right. I really thought I was following the process in the right way, in the correct way. I was wrong. Oops. Why was I wrong? Why am I doing that wrong? And then training. So let me train you on the process and show you why we do the process in that way. That always helps a process to get embedded. Show people why they're doing it so they don't get it wrong by honest mistakes. But what happens if their honest mistake keeps repeating itself? Surely at some point you have to say to people, look, we've given you a training course 3 times now. 3 weeks in a spa hotel in Oxford. It's not funny anymore. And then in the end, someone has to say, well, you've had a really good shot at this, but we're going to have to lose you. You're going to have to move on. And then beyond that, what about dishonest mistakes? What about the dishonest mistake, which is, I know what the process is, but to be honest, your process stinks. And I'm fixing it one call at a time by ignoring your process and following the, John Fijalkowski is going to do it better process. That's a dishonest mistake. I know that I'm supposed to close the calls every time I finish them, but I leave them till Friday. That way I do all my admin at once. So I get some calls that look like they took me an hour, some calls took me 4 days. But they didn't actually, they all took an hour. But the 4 days ones I did on Monday and then closed them on Friday. Ever got people doing that? Happens. Those dishonest mistakes we have to deal with as well. Second pair of eyes has to spot them. Have you got your quality assurance in place? Is someone checking it? Then you're going to go through the warning and the disciplinary and the dismissal process. And then there's the even worse one, the deliberate mistake. Deliberate mistakes. Hello, is that the help desk? Hello, this is help desk. How can I help you? Oh, your laptop's not working. Really? How old is it? 6 months. Well, you really need a new one, because that 6 months old one is not the latest technology. Why don't you bring the laptop in and exchange it in the morning? Yes, see me personally about 9 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, see you later, Dad. Bye. Deliberate mistakes is when you actually are seeking to get benefit from something. It's not just a twisting the process because I don't think you're right or manoeuvring around. I'm actually saying I'm deliberately avoiding the process to get personal gain. Well, that's even more serious. And again, where's the person who's going to spot that? That goes straight to disciplinary. You've set out to deliberately make a personal gain. And that leads to dismissal. And that does then ultimately, potentially lead to prosecution. Could be. Now, ugly truth table, strange facts about life. Ultimate things don't happen, do they? Nobody does that. And in the world of people's minds, when they're going through all this process engineering and improvement, they think, no, that doesn't happen. And none of that kind of correction stuff happens. No. And this stuff here, dishonest and deliberate warnings and disciplinaries, that only happens for really serious messing about. When it's very bad stuff and you've murdered somebody, fair enough. Otherwise, surely it's fine. I'm just adjusting the process to the benefit of it. Spotting it, quality assurance, someone checking up on me, don't think so. Don't like that idea at all, so you can forget that. And they will undermine that in whatever way they possibly can. And you'll get some partners, some people that you work with who'll say, dishonest, deliberate, moi, us, my team. That doesn't happen. Nobody in this place is either dishonest or deliberately making process changes. That's never going to happen. So in other words, in many people's minds, there's only stupid mistakes and honest mistakes, and there's only fixing it and spa hotel 5-day training courses. Everything else is not necessary. But it is. And trying to get that over to the team as part of the process improvement is important if you're going to make progress, because you need their support, but you don't want the people who are going to prevent you from getting on with it. Now, how do you mature a process? There is a climb that you've got to get up. You've got to work at it day after day after day, and there's a lot of things that you're going to be able to use along that way. Now, some techniques. To get from ad hoc to repeatable, you can use something like, and here's a few examples. Kaizen, you know Kaizen? Change for the better. The theme is change, here we are, change for the better. 5 S's. Sort out your mess. That's the first S. I'd like to have some therapy. When I first arrived at Manchester College, that was one of our data centres. With pride. I can show you. You perhaps can't see it. That actually there is a keyboard on the floor. And it is actually connected. Unbelievable. So, yes, that was one of our data centres, so you have to sort it out. Sort it out, so first things first, when in doubt, put a red tag on it. This is dead. I had boxes in the machine. I walked into a room, there was a stack of old computers. So what are they all here for? No one knows. Well, can't we throw them away? Well, they might work. Well, can we check if they work? Oh, I haven't got the leads for them. Well, right, so we're just going to leave them there. Well, they've been there for 4 years. Right, okay. In future, when you put something in the storeroom, can you put a red tag on saying why? Oh, really? That's a bit administrative, isn't it? A bit bureaucratic. Well, you sit, never mind, red tags. So we did that, then straighten it up. Straighten it up says, okay, there is a place for everything. And this is a big step for some people, right? We have to find a place for everything. Okay, we've defined a place for everything. And the next one, which is even harder, is put everything in that place. Every day. Don't just wait until the end of the week and then think, where does this go? Oh, I don't know, it came from such and such. Do it every day. Then you start to shine things up. Clean things. Pick up the bits of rubbish. You don't want to know what was on that floor. I had the hygiene people in. And then inspect it. They got really shocked when I started going back once a month. What are you doing here again? You were only here once. The last person who came in here was 4 years ago. And they haven't been seen since. So, inspecting is important. And then standardizing. Create some rules. When you go in and when you leave, in the intervening period, there's nothing more there than you planned to be, and nothing less than you planned to be, and all the bits are in a bin somewhere. That's a rule, follow it. And then make sure that people are complying with that rule. And then sustain it by having a daily routine. Someone goes in once a day. Clipboard, everything tidy, no bits on the floor. Tick, sign. That's a bit bureaucratic, isn't it? Yes, but look, it's now clean. Habitualize people. Get them into the habit where when they walk in, they think, oh, I better pick these bits up, otherwise John will be on my back. It's not a bad thing for them to think that, by the way. That's what your parents did. That's why your bedrooms are tidy today. It's because when you leave the bedroom in the morning, you think, oh, my mother will be ashamed of me. Duvet. You walk away. Okay. That's the 5 S's. But what happens when you want to get from repeatable to defined? First time you try and document a process. People get very disturbed by documenting processes. It's quite a complicated process. SIPOC. Do you know SIPOC? Supplier process, in this case, let's take strategic planning. So strategic planning is a supplier process. It creates an input to my process. This is the process down here that I'm going to work on. It produces a business strategy in this case, which then becomes my process, and I then have a process for strategic planning. Responsible me. Give it a number so I know where it is. Then I have an output. My IT strategy was produced from that. And then my IT strategy leads on to the next process. The customer process. High-level allocation of funds to the various component parts. That's a SIPOC, one SIPOC. Stick that SIPOC into a bunch of SIPOCs, and you can start, you see, look. Those 5 things there. Start to connect SIPOCs up, and start to put them everywhere, and then you get people into the idea of documenting. Just take one at a time. Person calls. Write down a service desk. Call. Deal with the call. Output is closed call. Send on to customer to say call is closed. It doesn't have to be complicated when you first start documenting it. It gets more complicated as you go on, but you can actually get there by doing it one SIPOC at a time. Don't overblow it. And the GR, gauge R&R. Gauge R&R is saying, pick your measure. Whether my measure is the length of something or the time it takes to do something. 2 metrics that drive fear into the heart of every man. Those metrics can be used then to measure your particular way of dealing with things, time it takes to close calls, whatever it is. But you have to do some things to those metrics. First of all, They have to be repeatable. That is, when I measure it one day, if I did the same activity the next day and measured it the same way, I get the same result. If I'm the kind of person who waits to close things on Friday, I do a job on Monday, it takes me an hour, but I'm not going to close it till Friday, so when I go to Friday, close it, it took me 5 days. Something I did on Friday, meantime, gets closed within an hour because I do my admin in the afternoon. So that took me an hour. That's not repeatable. The measurement needs to be repeatable. You have to measure it in the same way. And it also has to be reproducible. Reproducible is Fred and Daphne have to do it in the same way. It's no use Fred has now standardized himself if Daphne standardized herself in the completely opposite way. Repeatable and reproducible metrics are important, and you have to get that in. The next component part, different ways of getting things done. There's lean and there's DMAIC ways of improving processes. Let's walk through those quickly. How do you bring marginal IT gains to an organization? Break fix. Do you remember break fix? That was the old days. When things were broken, you fixed it. And you had a load of people with a load of stuff to mend stuff. Do you have cars? Been recently to get your car fixed? They throw the whole car away and they just replace it with a new plastic one. That was good. Break fix. If it's broke, fix it. If it's not broke, leave it. When I walked into my organization, we had 12-year-old PCs on desks. They aren't broken. You couldn't use them, which also helped not to break them, because they were so slow that they took forever to start in the morning. That no longer delivers. You cannot deliver an IT service on a break-fix basis. You've got to go for a waste-gain basis. The waste-gain basis says, if it's waste, remove it. Don't remove it and throw it away. Recycle. Time lost somewhere can be gained. Processes lost somewhere can be regained. You can recycle those things time and time again. What are the types of waste? The Timwood model, of course, which is always nice and fun. You've got transportation waste, you've got inventory waste, you've got motion waste, you've got waiting times, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. All the standard ways of looking at waste. If there's a gain, take it. Dave Brailsford. We've got this saying, performance by the aggregation of marginal gains. It means taking 1% from everything you do, finding a 1% margin for improvement in everything you do. That's what we try to do from mechanics upwards. If it works for them, it works for us. If there's a gain, take it. And it's not just about the people as well. Sometimes it's other things. One service desk manager, who shall remain nameless, recently changed all the tables and the headsets in their organization in order just to get that little bit of marginal gain in performance. People often associate marginal gains with pure technology, but it's far more than that. It's about nutrition, ergonomics, psychology. It's about making sure the riders get a good night's sleep by transporting their own bed and pillow to each hotel. Really? Did we bring mine? I think I'm missing something. Each improvement may seem trivial, but the cumulative effect can be huge. So sometimes it's not just about the process, it's also the environment within which the process occurs. So it's also about processes. It's also about changing the processes, and it never stops. Day in, day out, you're always working on it. So, delivering the difference and improving them all. Imagine you make chocolate bars. Imagine you make chocolate bars and you measure them, and you say, okay, my chocolate bars should be about 1 centimeters long, and they're somewhere between 7.6 and 8.7. But that's not very good. People who get one of these are very unhappy. People who get one of these are getting overweight. That's not good either. So that's not a great graph. What I'd like to do is say, okay, there's my mean, there's my average. I want it to be somewhere around the average, but that's too wide. I've got 100% of my things in that thing. Let's cut that down. Let's change the way we do it. Let's set a lower and upper target. Right, there we go. I've now got to manage my processes that deliver these metrics so that that disappears. Let's call these defects, and let's make 100% of my stuff go in this bin. This is all the stuff to do with quality. Yeah, Six Sigma and all that. Defect management. How do you turn defects into successful products? Well, you don't go to your chocolate bar that's a bit big, slice a bit off, and take it to the one that's a bit too short and stick it on. You've got to change the way in which you manufacture the chocolate bars. That's the only way to do it. Now, in our world, they're not called defects, because we don't like calling people or things defects. We call them mistakes. So when people make mistakes, you've got to do mistake management, and that's done through process improvement. Now, if you take lots and lots of changes and lots of improvements, eventually you'll see a different set of category of numbers. Your numbers will be more around the mean. Your actual products will be more like just a bit 8, just a bit 8.2, somewhere around that mean figure. that means that there's a whole bunch of interesting collateral benefits as well, because these ones are improved, which is kind of weird and counterintuitive, but most of the benefits of managing stuff outside your upper and lower limits actually occur inside, because these ones improve as well. Because you can't just target those. What you do is change the process and improve everything. Everything gets better as a result. Those collateral benefits result in a much bigger level of quality improvement. Your quality improvement is high. Now, you've got that. What about service improvement? In a world of service improvement, you say, well, this is my current high quality service, and this is the service we provide today. What does my customer want? My customer wants something else. They want it over here. They want the average to be over there. That's when they're happy. That's the service the customer would like. How do I get there? Different techniques, but process improvement. Lean improvement, process improvement. Whether it's initiative-based, whether it's small ideas-based, whether it's 1% marginal gain, whatever it is, everything you can do to improve things will improve the service that you deliver. Okay, so overused acronyms, KPIs, just to get rid of this. What is a KPI? What is a key performance indicator? The length of something? The time taken to do something? What is it? The average length of something, or just a key indicator of your performance? It is a graph. It is neutral. It is a number that you measure every day. 60%, 60%, 61%, 62%, 60%, 63%, 60%. It doesn't do anything. It's like the weather. It's just there. It cannot be achieved. For those people who have that kind of language, they say, oh yes, I must achieve my KPIs. No, you mustn't. You can't achieve KPIs. You can't meet them. You can't deliver them. And it is not a destination. It is not a target. And it is not an objective. It's a graph with some numbers on it. That's a key performance indicator. How many calls did I close today? Okay. From there, what use is it then? Why do we bother? Questions that can cause confusion. Compare it to a GPS. Right? Can you meet a GPS? Hello, GPS. Nice to meet you. Hello, I'm a GPS. That doesn't work. Can you meet a KPI? No. It's about the relationship with the ground. What is your ground? Your ground is your service. So, you can use a KPI to meet a target in the same way as you use a GPS to reach a location. How do you get these? Establish a route to your location using your GPS. I'm going to go from here to there, and I get that little blue squiggle. Turns up. Sometimes ends up in the wrong belfry, but you end up somewhere in the right direction. And then you constantly check where you are against your route. Where am I compared to that little blue line? Same with KPIs. You establish a plan to meet your target. There's my KPI. That's my track. I'd like to have my KPI meet me here. So I think of different ways to improve my process so my KPI heads towards it. Yeah? That's what you're trying to do. Constantly check your performance against that plan. So, what is your metric? What metric are you going to use? What's your target? And what's your plan to get there? And how are you doing today? We're all getting better? We're all improving. Good. Okay, now, driving the continuous process improvement. What is measured improves? Let's bring it all together into one picture if we can. Plan, do, check, act. You've all heard that. Yeah? Deming cycle. The driving forces in my college, in your universities, in other colleges, wherever it is. What are the driving forces? The voices of the student, the voice of the educator, the voice of the administrator. Listen to those voices. The voice of the governor, the voice of the business. They're all telling you what service they want. They've got an idea of where they think you are, and they've got an idea of where they'd like you to be. And they will tell you which processes to improve. They will tell you how much to improve. Listen to those voices. Let them set your targets. Don't try and do it yourself. Listen to the organizational goals as well, because the organization itself has got some ideas. Not only the IT services organization, but the overall organization. They're all got graphs in their heads, and they've all got targets in their heads. Then someone does the work. Someone works in the factory. Someone produces stuff, and someone else measures it. This little dude represents the factory. This is the IT services, run the factory. I'm delivering tickets every day. I'm closing tickets every day. I'm delivering service every day. We're delivering availability every day. We're delivering performance every day. Those are the numbers that appear in the KPIs. They will then drive your initiatives for quality improvement. Put your quality improvement cycle together. Plan, do, check, act. Create a quality plan. Your quality plan is all those things in your service portfolio how you're going to improve the service you deliver for each one of them, collaborating and working in cooperation with other people internally and with your customers and with all your suppliers and with all your end users. Get all of that together. What's the quality assurance? Where are we going to check? It's like the chocolate bar factory. I'll check the temperature of the chocolate, yeah? Would that be a good thing? Yes, okay. What about checking how long it takes to pour? Yeah, let's do that. What about taking the temperature when we're about to empty it? Yes, let's check that. That's your quality plan. That's what you're going to do. That's how you're going to check your quality as you go along. Once you've done that, right, quality assure it. Do it. Create. Do. Go. Solve tickets. Close calls. But as you're doing it, check on people. Where's the second pair of eyes? Where's the person who's looking to see whether it's done, whether it's complete, whether it was really complete, whether it was really finished or not? Having done that, at the end of it, you want to do quality control. Measure it. See how successful we were. Did we get it all done? Did we get what we wanted to do? Did we do things in the quality that we'd like it to be done in? Once you've done that, set out your improvement list. Here are the list of improvements in my services that I'd like to do. I'd like to do all these improvements. Now, once you've done that, make it a daily event. Every single day, you've got to look at that cycle. Where are we with all the different things we're doing? Day after day after day after day. It doesn't stop. The day you stop, the ball rolls back down the hill. So, last things to remind you. In all this area, you need to be an explorer. You need to explore the subjects. Not just, I'm good at service management, but explore the subject of quality, of process improvement, of lean management. All those different things you have to become an explorer of, curious, be curiosity-driven. You have to develop your expertise in them, how to use those different bits, how to bring them into your work, how to get metrics done, how to measure things. All those different areas you have to become an expert in, and orchestrating the work of others who also need to become experts in it. Then you need to build your experiences, graze a few knees, twist a few ankles. You have to do a few things. Get some experiences under your belt. Even if it's at small level, have a go, have a try, have a think, have a play, whatever it is. And from there, become really good at driving execution, really good at staring at that thing on the floor and thinking, right, I am now going to solve this process problem. I am going to pick up the bar. Pick it up, drive it through, and execute. And that is the only way you'll actually get the level of change you need that you're demanding for yourself, that your organization is demanding, that your customers are demanding. It's all about change. It's all about process maturity. It's every day. Thank you for listening. Have a lovely conference. Thank you very much.